There has been a lot of noise about the changes to ISAs, the headlines, forums, act now before too late emails landing in your inbox, and yes, the endless YouTube videos. Well, my view is that for most people, this is really a lot of fuss over nothing. But let me show you what's actually changing, the things that actually genuinely matter, and the one thing that really is worth checking up on today. Hi and welcome back to the channel. My name is Pete Matthew and I'm a chartered financial planner based here in the UK. And on this channel, we talk about how to build, grow and protect your wealth so that you can live the life you want, because that's what it's all about. And this video is brought to you by Meaningful Academy. More on that a little bit later. So from the 6th of April 2027, the rules around how much you can put into a cash ISA are changing. And the headline is that if you're under 65, you'll see your cash ISA allowance capped. You will still have your full 20,000 overall ISA allowance, but only £12,000 of that can go into cash, with the rest going into stocks and shares ISAs. Now, if you're 65 or over, that change simply doesn't apply. You will still be able to contribute the full 20 grand annual ISA allowance into cash. In addition to the changes to the allowances, there is a proposed new tax on the interest on cash held within a stocks and shares ISA. The tax is going to be at a weirdly random rate of 22%. I have no idea who thinks this stuff up and who decided it was a good idea to start taxing ISAs at all. Talk about meddling where they're not wanted. So, right at the top, let's ask the only question that really matters here. Does any of this actually hurt you? See, for most people building towards a secure future, the answer is no. And by the end of this video, hopefully you'll feel a lot calmer about the whole thing, if indeed you were stressed at all. Look, there are three things that people are worried about: the cut to the cash allowance, tax on the interest on that cash, and what it means for your everyday money. So let's take these one at a time. So let's start with the cash ISA allowance being cut. Now, if you are trying to build wealth over the long term, you really shouldn't be funneling 20 grand a year into a cash ISA anyway. Why is that? Well, one simple answer: inflation. Cash feels safe, and in the short term it is, but over years and the decades that you should be building wealth over, money which is sitting in cash quietly loses its purchasing power to inflation. So if your cash earns 4% interest and inflation is, say, 3%, well, you're barely standing still. But usually the rate of inflation is higher than the rate of interest. So you are literally getting slightly worse off every year. And again, that's okay for money that you're going to need soon, because the effect of inflation is limited in the short term, but compounded over 10 or 20 years, it is a killer. So when the government caps the amount that you can shelter in cash, they are nudging you towards a stocks and shares ISA for the rest. All they're really doing is pushing you towards where long-term wealth is actually built, and that's a good thing. I have always said that cash ISAs are barely worth using, so this supposedly massive change should be, for most people at least, a non-issue. So if this video is helpful so far, cutting through a lot of the noise on this subject, then give me a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, because then you'll have a good chance of seeing the rest of the stuff we put up, and there's a lot more where this came from. Okay, so next we've got interest on cash held within a stocks and shares ISA being taxed now. Now, I've seen some shocking reporting from the media on this, including these two absolute pearlers of headlines from the Daily Mail online. I mean, it just isn't a 22% tax on cash. We've had some questions coming in from people thinking they're going to be paying 22% on the cash itself. So if they had 1,000 quid worth of cash in a stocks and shares ISA, they'd be paying 220 quid a year in tax. Instead, of course, it's not that. It's a tax on the interest that the cash earns. So if you get 3% interest on your £1,000 of cash, that's 30 quid of interest. And on that, you're going to pay £6.60 in tax. Now, that's hardly earth-shattering stuff, but it annoys me greatly that the tax-free sanctity of the ISA is being violated in this way. It's just another example of myopic politicians trying to achieve one pretty good, noble objective, which is to improve the number of people investing, but trying to do that by adding complexity, confusion, and just meddling with things that were not really broken. And in any case, you really shouldn't be holding cash inside a stocks and shares ISA. You didn't used to be allowed to do it at all. Really, stocks and shares ISAs are about growth primarily, and as we've seen, cash is just not a growth engine. But Pete, I hear you say, what about the cash flow ladder? Well, I'm glad you asked. Whatever's prompted you to watch this video today, all roads lead to one simple idea. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you will know that building wealth isn't about finding the perfect investment or chasing the latest trend. It's about having a plan. That is the thing that will make or break your success. The problem is that most people never get taught how to create one. They know they should be investing, but not really sure where to start. They know terms like ISAs, pensions, platforms, tax wrappers, asset allocation, index funds. Nobody really explains how all the pieces fit together. And that is why I created the Build Wealth course inside Meaningful Academy. Build Wealth is a complete step-by-step program that shows you how to set meaningful financial goals, build an investment portfolio, understand platforms and tax wrappers, avoid some common behavioral mistakes, and create a clear process for reviewing your progress over time. And we'll start by helping you work out what you're actually aiming for and how much you're going to need to get there. Then we'll cover investing, portfolio construction, ISAs, pensions, how to choose funds, how to avoid emotional investing mistakes, and how to keep everything on track with a simple review process. You will also get access to Voyant Go, which is the same world-class financial planning software that I use every day with my financial planning clients. Your first year is included with your membership, and I'll teach you how to use it to map out your own financial future. On top of that, you'll join our thriving private community, attend monthly live Q&A sessions with me, and get priority support whenever you need help. So if you're ready to stop guessing and start building wealth with confidence, click the link below to find out more. And don't forget to use the coupon code YouTube for a special discount on Meaningful Academy Build Wealth. Right, if there is one part of all this that is worth your attention, it is this. The real job of cash, remember, isn't to grow your wealth, it's to support your cash flow, your spending. So we've got your emergency fund. That should be held in cash so that it's immediately accessible if you lose your job or you have a big unexpected bill. Then there's your short-term savings, the money that you're planning to use in the next year or two. That should be held in cash too, and certainly not risked in the stock market, because there just isn't time between now and you needing to spend the money to ride out the ups and downs of the stock market. If you are retired and you are drawing off your wealth, you should keep the first 1 to 3 years of your required spending in cash too, inside your tax wrappers, that is. So inside your pension fund or your ISA, because that puts a buffer between you and stock market volatility, and it means you're less likely to have to sell assets when they are distressed. It's a mechanism for minimizing something we call sequence of returns risk, which can do lots of damage to your wealth when you are retired. Given that you're not going to be able to hold cash tax-free in your stocks and shares ISA, what is the alternative? Well, one current option is to transfer some of your stocks and shares ISA cash into a cash ISA. But part of these new proposals coming in April 27 is to actually stop transfers in that direction. The powers that be are proposing essentially to ban stocks and shares to cash ISA transfers, though you'll still be able to move the other way. More meddling, huh? So if you want to hold cash inside a stocks and shares ISA without paying tax on the interest, the solution really has to be money market funds. Now, I've always suggested avoiding these because fundamentally they are not quite cash, but I'm having to change my thinking on that. So stay tuned for more on that soon, including how to find a good money market fund. Look, these cash ISA changes have generated a lot of noise, but for most people building towards their future, it really is a lot of fuss over nothing. The allowance cut simply nudges you towards where wealth actually grows. The tax worry, mostly speculation, and the sensible response doesn't really change either way. The one thing genuinely worth doing if you are retired or heading into retirement is to make sure that your cash flow ladder, your emergency fund, and your near-term money is deliberately structured. Do that, do it well, set it and forget it largely, and then get on with your life. Now, we've talked a lot about keeping your long-term money invested rather than sitting in cash, but if you're not actually sure how to do that simply and without paying a fortune in fees, that is your natural next step. So Watch this video next, where I'll walk you through how to build a simple, low-cost investment portfolio that you can run yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.